So, last night, I got a little bit curious. I decided to go and listen to Enemy Within Radio, and at the exact moment I tuned in, this was impeccable timing. You had the guy who they had on as a guest that evening, Ben, I believe his name was, literally goes, "Oh, and Bowler Hat Man's done videos on chemtrails." And I was like, my timing is impeccable. So, and there were 2 points of that night where I did send a Skype conversation, because I thought, if you guys are basically gonna, discuss my videos, should I not be allowed then to reply to them? Have an actual proper talk and a debate, rather than living in an echo chamber, which you guys seem to be. But we'll get on to that. So, the first point is, they bring up the whole chemtrail stuff, and I'm sorry. Right, Ben brought up a point of, he says, "Oh, well, if you ask my parents, they'll tell you, there's more trails in the sky than there used to be." Of course there are! I'm sorry, but it's that's the most easiest thing, and the simple answer to it is, air travel has become more popular. Question answered. Again, it's that simple thing where if I'd have, if he'd allowed me on, I could have gone rebutted. Not a single one of you brought that point to him. And again, you went on to, he goes on to a point about, "Oh, I can't fly up, to that altitude and, put out a test tube and, take an air sample." You don't need to be 20,000 feet in the air to be able to take an air sample. Particularly if these chemtrails are working like you said, because, apparently they contaminate the soil. You can easily do a chemtrail, your air test, standing on the ground. It's not that hard. And then you bring up, one of you mentioned, "Oh yeah, they did a test in Arizona." Yeah, that test shows is so ridiculous, because for the pure fact, if that test is correct, then either A, everyone in Arizona is dead because they're breathing more metal than they are air, or people in Arizona have somehow evolved their lungs so that they now breathe metal rather than oxygen. Yeah. That was, so of course after hearing that, I phoned in. Yes, I thought, sorry, I'm not going to let any of this slide, because none of that stuff was being brought up. None of these, none of my actual points that I had made to Brett, and I know he's seen my videos. Not even mentioned those points. You'd think if someone had brought up a point like that, you might have a bit of a readiness to it, maybe, or maybe acknowledge the fact that there are problems in your holes. So anyway, that was the first time. The second time was when Brett brought up the fact that Andrew Wakefield is somehow a martyr because he released a completely flawed and bogus study that there was a link between the MMR vaccine and autism. Andrew Wakefield is an absolute tit. First of all, not only did he start this ridiculous anti-vax movement, but he's also responsible by proxy for the "you can cure your child of autism" group as well. And yes, they do exist. Second of all, Andrew Wakefield is responsible from pretty much now until parents get it through their heads that there is nothing wrong with the MMR vaccine. Example, in last year, Wales, I think it was November time, there was an outbreak of measles. Yes, measles. And guess what? 2 children died. Why? Hadn't been vaccinated. It's that simple. And the next point is, you would then talked about Andrew Peruzzi and his study, and how he brought out he's been, discredited by the scientific community, quite rightly so. And again, we'd been having a conversation that very morning where I sent you a link and showed you why his study was flawed, even to a point where 2 of probably the biggest scientific review boards came back and said, no scientific information can be taken from this study. Did you even acknowledge that fact on your show? No. Why? Because you're not interested. You are not interested at all. You are only interested in people that prove your points. It doesn't matter what they're saying. Again, Andrew Wakefield, Peruzzi, both their papers have been ripped to shreds by the scientific community. Completely. But you don't care. Heck, the French study, which you admit is wrong, is a better scientific paper than Andrew Peruzzi's study. You are not interested in facts or science. In fact, you came up and were saying, oh, but, science needs to be, open, and, it needs to lead to truth, and that's what science is all about. You do not care. Science is all about proof and evidence. And you take the evidence and the facts that you have and you go where it leads you. I've said it before. People like you are saying 2 + 2 is 5. And you are ignoring the evidence and you are ignoring the numbers you are given. Sorry, but the answer is 4. It doesn't matter how much you want it to be 5, the answer is 4. I am more than willing to, ever come on your radio show again, but I doubt you will, because, quite frankly, I think if you ever have me on again, you're going to try and play games with me again. And next time, before you have me on, I will basically ask the simple questions, which are entirely reasonable. What are we talking about? What we'll be discussing. Purely for the fact, next time, I want to be prepared. Because last time, I knew if I pushed that further, you'd probably go, oh no. And I was right. So I went on unprepared. And that's all down to me. Whatever. But, you played games with me. You were dishonest. You've admitted to being dishonest. And now you started this whole thing, oh, well, never mind, I proved a point. What was your point? That I wouldn't look at a paper, and I have, and I found, huge flaws with your paper, and I've sent you proof of how flawed your paper is. And, again, the fact that 2 of the biggest peer review boards out there have gone, yeah, we can't get any scientific evidence from this paper because of how flawed it is. Sorry, you're living in an echo chamber. And if you want to live like that, then it's no problem with me. But, I'll just continue to laugh at you. Because, my God, it is hilarious.